Hello there again. You're with Anne and Nick. Hello, Nick.
Hi.
Hello. Are you with us? All I can see is your finger, which is a bit rude, really, but there you go. Are you there? I've lost you. This is just with Anne at the moment. Where's Nick? You did something, boy. Oh, well, we'll find him in a minute. We've got a lovely programme lined up for you. Ah!
Oh.
Are you with us? All I can see is your finger. Ah, I had a speaker on as well. We're all making mistakes, aren't we, today?
Can you see me now?
I can see you loud and clear. How are you? Yeah, I can see and hear you all as well.
Good to see you. Are you fitting well?
I am actually. Yeah, I mean, I say fit. I'm not doing any exercise, but I am well. Yeah.
Good. Good to hear. I don't know whether you saw the programme on Channel 4 last night about VE Day. It was absolutely fantastic, really.
I mean, it is amazing. When is VE? Is it coming up? Is it this Friday coming?
Yeah, this Friday. We're having a bank holiday, aren't we, to mark VE Day itself. But last night was sort of a colourised film, genuine film of, these celebrations and the last moments. And it was absolutely fascinating. I always find it so interesting just looking at individual faces. And I wonder if you're still alive now, these people.
Oh, yes.
In the streets, whether they're soldiers or civilians or whatever, and people are so happy, and the lights go back on in Europe and all that. Marvellous time it must have been.
My mum always used to talk about what a wonderful day it was, and there literally were people dancing in the street and all sorts of romances going on that night because everybody got so excited. Can you imagine? Because nobody knew how it would turn out, and then it turned out that way, dancing.
When you think that they had 6 years of just not knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, we can look back and say, oh, it must have been great. They were coming to the end of the war. But they didn't actually know in the last, say, 3 or 4 months. They were coming to the end of the war. It could have gone on for another 10 years for all they knew. That uncertainty, which is actually something we're wrestling with now, isn't it? Uncertainty. I know it's still a crisis, a massive national crisis. And it's very difficult. I find that the most difficult thing to cope with. When will things remotely get back to normal? Will we be able to see family and friends? And there's talk about these 10 people being allowed to get together, aren't they? No more, no less, but you can have 10. Will it be good? What happens to the 11th person? I saw someone thinks, oh, I've been cut out of that little group and I'm a bit upset.
And it's interesting seeing those pictures of those people, as you say, you look at their faces and you think, I wonder what happened to you. But that they were celebrating and having the most marvellous time on VE Day. But of course, they too had to, like hopefully we will one day when they find a vaccine or something. But, you still have to think of the people who've lost their lives. And you feel guilty for celebrating in a way. You didn't feel guilty for being
the families, the mums and dads of young lads who lost their lives on the front, or women who lost their lives on the front. I mean, you don't get over it, do you? You cope, but you don't get over it. And it's just, it's a fascinating time. I'm really looking forward to the celebrations later this week and the reminiscences, which the BBC do well. I think it'll be very, very special. I really do.
Yeah, we won't be able to go out and dance in the streets, will we? Which is odd. Those street parties.
Another crisis I want to talk about, but it's not as serious. What do you do about getting a haircut at the moment?
Oh, everybody's talking about this. Yeah, I mean, and I heard a hairdresser on TV a few days ago saying, embrace the grey. No way, thank you very much. Not embrace the grey. How are you coping?
Well, luckily Vicky can cut hair. My Vicky can cut hair, and she's cut mine about 3 or 4 times already in 6 or 7 weeks. Just a gentle little trim. I mean, it lasts half an hour, but the first 25 minutes is obviously finding it. And then a bit of a snip, and we're sorted. But there's some people, it's a real problem. And if you do your own, I mean, you do your own, don't you?
I've always done my own hair because, I mean, ever since I was really little, we had a hairdresser in the house. My elder sister is a hairdresser, and so I've always watched her and studied her and known how you do it, basically. And actually, she complimented me a while ago, saying she would offer me a job if I ever needed one, because I do like I can cut hair. I can.
That's a nice little safety net for you, isn't it? But what do you do about cutting your back, the back of your head?
Oh no. The back is really difficult, but even some of the makeup ladies in TV studios have complimented me on the fact that I do manage to make some sense of the back, but it is quite difficult. I mean, you have to do a lot of it by feel. But I was thinking of experimenting with colour as well, because lockdown gives you the freedom to do that. And I thought, what about a big blue stripe going across there? I'd really love that.
Yeah, well, this week it should be red, white and blue, shouldn't it, really?
Hey, you're giving me an idea now. I have got red and blue in the bathroom.
I'm going to have.
I might have a little experiment.
I'm going to have to put some more grey in mine, because really my hair is jet black, but I put grey in it to give myself some credibility and gravitas.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I totally agree
Black
with that.
roots start showing through soon, so it's a bit of an issue. Anyway,
listen, I think we've got somebody
guest
special waiting in the green room.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to him. Are you there in the waiting room? Come in, Johnny Vegas.
Johnny Vegas.
Johnny Vegas.
Yay!
Hey!
I can't see him yet. Can you?
I can't see him, but I can hear him. He's like in a room down the corridor.
I'm gonna.
Got you.
Yes!
Got you.
I'm gonna wish something. There you go. I've got us on gallery now. I can see you both.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely to see you.
Yeah, you too. How are you?
Well, we're doing very well. What about you? I mean, this is extraordinary time for you, because normally you'd be out and about doing all sorts of gigs all over the place. But it's like lockdown has given you some other persona to be. You've never been so busy, have you? Oh, we've lost him. We lost him. Johnny, are you there?
Oh, I'm back. We're back.
Oh, good. Tell us what you've
here,
been up to. Tell us what you've been up to, because you've never been so busy.
I've just been heavily involved with a local charity that I'm a patron of, and we've done lots of fun things in the past, but they basically helped to set up a shop up the road for key workers and NHS workers, and then that's moved on to providing a lot of PPE equipment for care homes and agency staff and people that have just been struggling to get hold of anything like that. Although I am.
And what have you've been driving all over the place, dropping off stuff?
Yeah, it's a lot of miles. It's been great. I've seen bits of my town I haven't seen for years.
And I've seen your Twitter feed, and you've been congratulating people for what they do. You've been here and there all over the place, and you've been making appeals. And it seems that everybody answers your appeals, and all sorts of produce is coming in, and you're distributing it. Even visors.
Yeah, visors, LLTP. I can't pronounce it wrong, because in Liverpool we've had phone calls. I've been over to Doncaster to get masks. I've been to to get material for scrubs. It's just been a mad scramble, but every time we get the equipment, it kind of goes out the door as fast as we get it. So, but
and Johnny, are we right in thinking that your mate Russell Crowe has been helping you by appealing to people to get involved?
That was unbelievable. I dropped a DM just saying if you could send a message of support, but I thought he'd just write something I could show to people. And then when that video went out, we went glow.
Yeah.
Well,
I think we've got that video, actually.
Yeah, we've got the video that Russell Crowe made for Johnny. Let's have a look.
Here we go.
G'day folks, how you doing? This is a message on behalf of my old mate Johnny Vegas. If you're in the St Helens area, if you're having trouble getting food deliveries from your local supermarket, if you're NHS staff, a key worker, elderly, isolating, vulnerable, call this number 0174 488 1881, 0174 488 1881. Steve Prescott Foundation and the Blackbrook Rugby League team have set up a delivery service, and they can help you out. They can pick up your shopping. They can maybe even pick up your medicine. One of the delivery workers is going to be Johnny Vegas, though, so expect to lose every second or third biscuit. Alrighty?
What's that back there? Oh, look at that. That's fancy.
Those funny little statuettes in the background.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never won one.
How come he's a mate?
I have a trophy cabinet like that, but they're all paper mache.
Yeah. Johnny, how come he's a mate?
Well, he owns a rugby league club, the Rabbitohs, and there's a yearly the World Cup Challenge, and his team won, and it was a very famous thing that they came to play St Helens, and it happened to be on the same night as the Oscars. And he said, "No, not forget the Oscars. I'd rather be in St Helens," which was a huge thing for the town. He came to the match. He nilled us. His team, the Rabbitohs, nilled my beloved Saints. I actually didn't speak to him on the evening. I was too cross. And I met him later on at the last leg.
You've actually turned out for St Helens, haven't you?
Pardon?
You've actually turned out for St Helens, haven't you?
Once, or don't.
Go on.
The greatest display of cowardice you'll ever see.
Proud man.
Well, no, what I'm saying about the time, I was saying to my friend, I played a bit in my youth, you know, I might just surprise them. I was terrified. And I have an ongoing debate with my friend Ian Bulsworth about my kick, which in my head had sailed 40 yards over to the left. And then he showed me video evidence of it going 3 yards to the right.
But actually, Johnny, while we're talking about sport, a lot of my fellow Luton Town football fans have happy memories of meeting you on the train back from Carlisle when they just won promotion a couple of years ago. Do you remember that?
Do I remember that? I got on the train with you going, talk about the party's already started.
Look at you.
Look at you.
That was one of those brilliant impromptu. I was expecting a quiet couple of hours, sit down, go through my scripts, get ahead, and got on that train, and it was just phenomenal. The atmosphere was superb. The Mad Hatters.
Mad Hatters, that's us.
There wasn't a quiet carriage.
It doesn't look very quiet.
Now, looking back over the years, I think I first sort of became aware of you with the ITV digital ads and the PG tips.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was an advert. It was never meant to become what it, you know what I mean? It became a sort of
iconic
phenomenon in itself. Yeah, that was, you know what? That was honestly the first time I went to shops and I got the double look.
Oh yeah.
Someone I didn't know. Do you know what I mean? When you're not used to that, and because my natural reaction is always, have I met them at someone's wedding and should I know them?
Yeah.
I know the feeling.
And then 10 years on, you've got guys in Spa shouting "monkey" and me going "grow up."
Absolutely fan. I suppose when you were at school, did you ever say to teachers, "I'm going to be a comic"?
No, it was honestly not. It's very funny because I had people at school who say I was funny. It was never my intention. Do you know what I mean? I never. When you hear some comics saying they would practice in front of the mirrors, it was that whole. I mean, I suppose humour is a way of breaking people down in a way and making yourself socially acceptable. But no, it was. I think my first. I wanted to be a joiner, and when I look back now, the shame of it. I went for an interview with the council, and the first test they give you is basically, let's get rid of the idiots. And I will never forget, there was a diagram. Now, why this would be in a test for joining me, but of a bottle of wine, 1/3 full, and then it showed you the bottle of wine at 45 degrees and asked you to draw what level the wine would be at. And I drew the wine at 45 degrees.
Oh, well.
I'll never forget the rejection letter, because this envelope came in the post. And my brother went, well, you've messed that up, haven't you? I said, how do you know? That second class stamp.
Oh, yeah, says it all.
Why would they waste the postage on going? And it was a very, thank you for showing an interest. And then it was art. It was, my big ambition was to become a ceramicist and conquer the world with teapots. And
you did.
You've done all right.
You did. Yeah.
I did okay, but only by drafting it into my stand-up set.
I tell you what, though, there is I mean, just to prove that you are a potter, there is a clip of you, I think we've got, on the Great Pottery Throwdown, actually proving the point Can we bring that up? We can. Let's have a look at this clip. This is you really doing your ceramic stuff.
Okay. You're now at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I did, didn't I? Got cocky. Now, here's the big test. If I pass or fail, it has to pour. Let's see. More tea, Vicar. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's brilliant.
It is brilliant, yeah.
That's what we did for kicks at college. It was the 2-minute teapot.
Yeah.
And then we narrowed it down to the 1-minute teapot.
Very impressive, really is. You can still do it.
One of those is actually in the V&A Museum. That's probably one of my proudest achievements.
I know. You've actually got your teapot in the V&A.
I've actually got my teapot in the V&A. I made a film with Roger Law, who co-created Spitting Image.
Yeah.
And he made a film for the Arts Council, and we had no budget. I think we stole the film stock from Channel 4. One of the runners was working there. We made this film and we premiered it over in Amsterdam. It was the Millennium Meeting of Potters. And they asked me if I'd get up and do a turn. But when you get, if you throw pottery in front of people who can't throw, it looks fabulous. When you throw it in front of the world's best ceramicists, they're all going, it's terrible. But we set the 1-minute challenge, and I made mine, and the V&A asked if they could fly it back and fire it and add it to the contemporary ceramics.
You flirted with the priesthood, didn't you, as a youngster?
Yeah, I did. I was there from the age of 11, a year and a half. Can you imagine? Yeah.
Well,
Other Johnny Vegas.
Yeah, you've got an enormous following now. Maybe you'd have an enormous flock if you were still a priest, if you were a priest.
Would you ever really want to confess to this?
I don't know. I might. I mean, it's actually, that's very interesting. Are you still religious at all?
I am. It's an odd one. I'm sort of quasi-religious because I still have. There's a priest up the road who I think the absolute world of. I don't think I would. It's not, I don't practice, but I talk. I kind of took out the middleman.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, you know what I mean? I might not be seen there every week, but I'm certainly not agnostic. Do you know what I mean? It's an off and on thing.
It's because I asked because Nick and I were talking earlier about the fact that if you're asked about how the lockdown is going for you, I feel guilty actually sort of admitting that I'm quite liking some of it. I know there are people dying and there are people suffering and there are families who are bereaved, which is simply dreadful. And I just wonder how, if you've got a religious belief, how you even rationalize that. I mean, why is this happening and how? What have we done to deserve it, I suppose, is what I'm asking.
Well, I don't know, but, also a lot of things like this can be man-made or this, you know what I mean, or how we've reacted to it. It's nature versus, if you have faith, then surely maybe you're thinking, does God play a part in it, or is it just that God's there and nature's there, and in between we're asking for help? I only shake my fist like that if I get caught up in a car. That's when I blame God. Did I deserve that?
How would you describe yourself as a comedian? What sort of comedian do you think you are? Because a lot of comedians are really quite depressing characters when they're not being funny on stage, aren't they? What are you like when you're not on stage and doing the biz?
I would say I'm also very introspective. I suppose it depends on what kind of performer you are. Because some are fastidious writers, you know what I mean, that very carefully craft it. With me, I discovered it's an alter ego. It's just a different person. I'm not very confrontational in real life. I wouldn't even say I'm the most confident person in real life. But I have this other part of me that when Johnny comes out, is fearless and quite interesting. I was talking about this with a friend the other day, going, it's almost like having somebody that fights all your battles for you.
Could it take some go on stage?
I'm an observer. I like to observe. I love. In fact, that was, you know what, that was the biggest thing. You know, he's asking about the monkey ads earlier.
Yeah.
There was a real switching point, and I used to just love watching people. I was a people watcher and just an observer of how folk interacted. And then suddenly, when you walk in somewhere and people are watching you instead, it was really hard because people were not being, they weren't being themselves around you, really. And you were the focus of attention, and you wanted them just to be themselves, almost in a Ken Loach style. You know what I mean?
Johnny, what do you like at that moment? They say so, ladies and gentlemen, please, a warm welcome for Johnny Vegas. What that moment? What's that like in your guts?
Awful.
Oh, really?
The daily build-up of reflux. It's, you know what? It's not done that because, you know, people say, "Oh, you want to work for 1 hour a day," and you go, "No." If I woke up and I had a gig, I obsess. It's there until it's out the way, and only being as good as your last gig. It takes over the day. I mean, a nightmare to be around because you're just thinking about that hour and you're just thinking about hoping it'll go all right. Now, I worry about that as Michael. As you say, Johnny Vegas, Johnny Roxanne was, I don't know what he was so worried about. And then when it's a terrible gig, I have to be the one that goes, "I do apologise for that." It gets rather carried away.
Have you ever actually lost your way in the middle of a routine or anything?
Loads, but that's why I sort of made Johnny a ex-Lounge Lizard cabaret singer, so that if you forget or lose your way, cut to a song.
Yeah.
The worst thing is, it's very strict because people always say to me, "You talk about Johnny as a different person."
Yes, you do. Yeah.
You know what? That's what's been, as you say now, being back here, I've never had this length of time to be Michael Pennington again. All the time. And I've really sort of, I think I've benefited from taking stock of a lot of things. You know, it's been a difficult couple of years with losing my parents and things, and being back all this time within the community. Within, you know, where I consider myself from and where I will live again one day. It's been really, really good for me. As you say, you feel guilty saying that.
Yes.
But within gigs, I would say the thing with Johnny, he won't leave the stage if he feels that he's undersold people, and sometimes the gig just doesn't go in your way. So, but
you hide your light under a bushel, don't you? I mean, you pretend you're Johnny Vegas. This alter ego is sort of a bit of a, well, you've said it, slob. But you're not. I mean, you're a thinker, actually, aren't you? You've got. There's an awful lot more to you, and maybe the last few weeks have let this out.
Yeah, well, like I say, it gives you time to take stock. It's been really good to sort of, I think for myself, being away so much, it's been great seeing what it's brought out in people. You know what I mean? And I mean, a real sense of community. But yeah, there has been times we go, I should be somewhere. You go, no, I don't. Technically, I'm being told not to be anywhere. And that for me,
is there a danger?
Is there a danger?
Is there a danger? Do you think that you'll go right back to how it was before, or do you think you've learned something from all this?
Do you know what? Good question, because my best friend and long-suffering assistant, Bev, said, "What are you going to be like when this is over?"
And I think we can all ask that. I think we're all taking stock, as you say, and appreciating what we've got rather than racing past everything all the time and not actually appreciating what's on your doorstep, who you're living with, etc., and who you work with, and all the friends and the family that you suddenly now realise they're really important to you, and some of the most basic things in life are so important, and we hadn't appreciated it before because we were so moving so quickly from A to B all the time, worrying about the next gig, the next program, the next job you've got to do, and so on. And suddenly we are pausing for thought. Yeah,
it's been very telling. I've seen a lot of sports stars, and again, I think it's something we go. If you have the kind of career where it's seen as I'd give anything to have that job. You know what I mean? But without the pressures or anything else. You've seen a lot of footballers, a lot of stars going, I went out and I went to work and my partner raised the children and I've never had this amount of quality time.
Quality time.
You know, with them at home in the way that you would if if you're taking on a different career. But then the minute you feel like you resent that, you've got a career that people go, well, I'd give anything for that. And you go, well, it comes with a lot of sacrifices. Yeah. And especially, with family and home time. So it has. I think it's given so many people, not just footballers, but a lot of people to take stock, to be at home more. I'm sure there'll be a lot of folk far more great. If there's one partner in the relationship that has the children, but I mean, the amount of friends of mine who've just gone, I've given up on the homeschooling.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I would find that
right out of the window.
Yeah,
I think you call that challenging.
That really is too challenging. Yeah.
Tell me this: how much has your childhood shaped you? Do you think?
A lot. In terms of Michael, and that's what's really interesting about, I think, going away from home at a young age to seminary, that was something I sort of I explored in when I wrote my autobiography, because I think there was a little split there, and I think that's where Johnny sort of developed, and it was, without getting too deep, almost like a defence mechanism.
Yeah.
I think my parents certainly were just wonderful people. We didn't have much for what we had. We had a lot of love, and I suppose that sense of community and how caring you are for others. I always think that I'm torn between, if you're a stand-up, and I often refer to this, it's the arena of the unwell. There's something not quite right with you that you choose to go on stage and share so much of yourself, or you know what I mean, put yourself at that point where you can have 5 great gigs and then you go and do a bad gig and it's right back to the beginning again.
That's the one you think about, isn't it?
But the interest in people, and as you were asking earlier about what kind of comic are you, I've always loved the conversational.
Yes.
That are stories.
Yes. Yeah, lovely stories.
Something phenomenal about, great gag writers are worth the weight in gold, but the Dave Allen types, and the Billy Connolly,
who watch life.
Yeah. They draw you in, and it's a 20-minute beautiful story. It's not that rush to the punchline. It's just engaging.
It's funny.
Go on.
No, well, I was going to say it's interesting. You were talking about your parents and what lovely people they were. And Nick's lost his parents, I know, and I've lost mine now. And some of you is glad that they're not around for this, because I don't know how we would cope, and I don't know how they would take it. And I saw a tweet that you made a couple of weeks ago, I think, Johnny, where you said more or less the same thing. I'm so glad. I hate to have lost them, but I'm so glad they're not around for this, because how would we even explain this to them?
Oh, it's been a conversation within the families to go, is it wrong? Because up to, before this all kicked off, since before Christmas, just met every day, going to ring my mum, realising I can't ring my mum. I see Vera's on, and if it's a new episode going, just it's, you know what I mean? Just little points up there. And then there's this, it's a guilt, but it's a good thing to discuss within the family, to go, I don't think I'd be able to cope.
Especially if one parent was on his or her own and were isolated in a situation like this and weren't local to you.
We found that, honestly, you've got the practical thing of when you're doing the food drops, you drop the food, but you know what? A 10-minute chat to somebody, and the amount of people who are self-isolating, but they're self-isolating miles away. I feel for them so much, because to have to resist that temptation to want to go there or be there, and knowing that you're doing the best for them. And I think for this generation as well, they're saying like this is our version of World War II, but you're going, they got out and did things, and being told to stay at home and do nothing.
It's
for
the
a
worst,
generation
isn't it?
of doers is even harder for them.
But you're doing a wonderful job at the moment. I mean, if anyone who wants to follow your Twitter feed, I mean, you're out doing something every 10 minutes. And that is, I mean, it must be satisfying for you, and it obviously fulfills a need. But you're doing such a lot of good. It must give people such a hoot to have some food delivered to them by Johnny Vegas. They must double take when they see you on the doorstep.
It's lovely. As I said, you either end up with half the street out. It's the amount of safe distance selfies, because it just looks like I'm photobombing. I'm just in the background doing that when it looks like a normal.
Johnny, do you have comic heroes?
Yeah, Les Dawson.
Oh, he's great. Yeah. I can see a similarity.
Yeah,
Les Dawson, Billy Connolly, Tom O'Connor. Tom O'Connor was a brilliant storyteller. John Locke, I love before that. You know what I mean? There are people of our. I didn't. You know what it was? So I said I had no ambition to be a comic, and then about the age of 15, 16, I realised years later I cleared out some boxes, and it was just VHSs of comedy and comedy shows. And I've become obsessed with it without realising, and still had no ambition to become a comic. But I loved, we had I remember listening to a cassette of Tom O'Connor with my dad and laughing, and both of us getting it. And then I think my dad was just sort of, it doesn't have pictures, so you probably won't enjoy it.
Yeah. Did you meet any of your heroes?
Getting, I have. I've been very lucky. I've never met Billy personally, which he was to tick off the list, but I got to see him live, and he was.
Your jaw aches, doesn't it, with the laughing?
Yeah. This is an age thing now. Because Ken Dodd I met, and Ken was amazing. He was another one. My dad had seen him live and just said, do you know what I mean? What a great actor was. It took me 3 years to see him, because in St Helens, when he played here, everybody went out and bought tickets for his show, for the next show straight after the performance. So you had to go on the waiting list to get it. And it's always, I'm so glad I got to meet him a few times afterwards, because I queued on that night to meet him backstage, and he always stayed around, and he always met anybody that wanted to say hello.
Yes.
And
he would often go on for hours after he was due to end. He would go on and on and on, because he just loved it.
Yeah, people were ringing their babysitters and stuff like that, saying, sorry, we're not going to be home till 1 o'clock and things like that.
Yeah.
So, how did he store all that up?
They would say, bring the flask.
Yeah. And a sleeping bag.
He would just add to his set. So you'd have like a 3 hour set. But I met him, and he said, what do you do? And I'd never, ever describe myself as this, but I went, I don't think you'd like it. I'm one of them alternative comedians. And he went, well, are you funny? And I went, well, I hope so. And he went, well, then you're not alternative. You're just a comedian. And you know, I've had the same. Oh, and I'll tell you what, mate. And God, Bob Monkhouse.
Yes.
Now,
again, a most incredibly impressive man.
But did so well on television and within different genres of game shows and stuff. Wasn't fully appreciated for how brilliant his stand-up is.
Johnny, don't you think one of the great gags of all time, it's not a woofer, but it's so clever about when I said I wanted to be a comedian, they all laughed at me. They're not laughing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Oh, it's good.
Well,
it's good.
Wasn't Bob the only wasn't he the only English comic to write for Bob Hope?
Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah. Oh, yes, you're right. Yes, he did.
And Johnny, can we just tell you that Anne and I both spent time with Bob Hope in his back garden in Beverly Hills?
Yeah.
Did you know?
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely.
No. You can't just tell me that. This is another chapter of the day.
No, but
and the first week I was ever on breakfast television, one of our guests was Dickie Henderson. And I remember my father saying, oh, you lucky girl, of interviewing Dickie Henderson, because he was brilliant too.
Yeah. Well,
love
Bob was that it was a discussion about comedy and stand-up, and it was for TV, but as we got talking, I was overwhelmed how many new acts he knew.
Really?
Who he'd been to see, and he hadn't told us that he'd been to see us. And what I loved about that was I was always, which comes back to the, alternative comedy and Ken of going, like fashion, like everything, it can go in circles and it can come back to somebody doing, something that you're going, well, there's somebody doing that in vaudeville. Well, look,
we're doing a Ken Dodd now, aren't we? I think we're running out of time, aren't we? We're running well past cocktail hour.
Yeah.
He was. What was wonderful that I never wanted to be the comic that resented the new generation of comics, because comedy does move on. I never wanted to be the one picking my son up from school and him going, "Please don't pull up at the gate."
Yeah.
And the fact that he had so much respect for new comedy and what was coming through really did. So a lovely soul of a guy.
Yeah, he was.
For what comedy was, not for what he could get out of it or where he was. Anyway, sorry.
We got quite a few questions actually coming in. Margaret Harris, hi Margaret. Margaret says Johnny is so down to earth. There you are. That's a nice compliment. Please tell JB Barrington, poet. Tell Johnny his favourite poet says hello.
Oh, the big
and we got. Oh yeah, and he also says, all right, here's a question for JB. Colin Crompton or Jimmy Tarbuck?
Oh, now don't make me choose. I'm going to give that a standard. They're both Colin Crompton. I love Tarby, I like, but yeah, Crompton. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll get some grief off the Scousers for that one.
Claire McMullen says, massive hugs, Johnny, doing a grand job. I mean, most people are just getting in touch to say how brilliant you are. And it's been so lovely. We could talk to you well over time. We could do a Ken Dodd and go past our time. I guess we shouldn't.
I know, but I think you've only got me on because you've got the safety of doing this long distance. I want to visit you both at home.
Ooh, that would be a bit dangerous, but okay.
I'm going to sit in the garden. Okay, I'll wear my Bob Hope mask. We'll just recreate the old times.
Well, I'm practically next door to an off license, so that would be really handy.
Oh, well, that'll be handy.
Yeah, I'm not
far in the garden.
Yeah. I'll go in and just put it on Anne's tab.
Yeah. Oh, yes, definitely.
Johnny, thank you so much.
Oh, no, it's absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, it's lovely to talk. And well done to all the work that you're doing and all of the people that you're helping, and give them our love too.
Stay safe.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, stay safe.
Very safe. Yeah, you too.
All the best. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Oh, wasn't that nice?
It was just lovely. It could go on talking for ages, you know. You just have to sort of hold yourself back. I love talking.
It's like I said, that, you know, he's got this outward thing of being, you know, the comedian, but he is much deeper back there, isn't he? We've got lots of clips of him, you know, winning programs and throwing pots and reading poetry and composing poetry. I mean, he's really quite deep, isn't he? And it's lovely to talk to somebody with that depth.
I know. No, it was a real education, actually, because I've never met Johnny, so it was a real experience chatting. And
I didn't meet him until I was doing a Loose Women program at ITV, and I came out of the ITV studios and practically fell over him, and he practically fell over me, and then we did lots of photographs together, and he was just so lovely and natural and warm and smashing. Yeah.
Isn't that one of the lovely things?
I know you've always loved Eric Morecambe, of course, because you have this bond.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But other than Johnny and Morecambe, who are your favourite comedians? What sort of comedy do you really like?
Bob Monkhouse is absolutely brilliant, and you know, he was he's like a professor of comedy. So I've always been a great fan of his. But you know, I'm a great fan of people like Bobby Davro, who I've worked with loads, and you know I do, and Brian Connolly. We talked about Billy Connolly, who was great, but Brian Connolly is fantastic.
Yes, brilliant.
All-round performer, a great singer, and a great sort of mover, and he just gets the audience going. And I've worked with him loads. I even did a Celebrity Antiques road trip with Brian, which was great fun.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I just love comedians. Just absolutely learn. Jasper Carrott, you know, in his
I love Jasper.
And still see him quite often, you know, and I think he's a great performer, and very, very funny. His delivery is absolutely bang on, and I really admire people like that. If I'd had another chance and started again, I might try to be a comic. I don't think I'd have the bottle for it, you know, going out on stage and, you know, people look at it and say, "Go on, and son, make me laugh." It's quite an art.
Well, an art. I think you need such courage to get up and do stand up.
Yeah, I know. Ken Dodd was brilliant.
People do it.
My goodness.
But Ken Dodd was wonderful. I tell you what, going right back, I mean, many years ago, when I was a student, me and my friend Jackie did a summer job at Butlins in Minehead in Somerset, and we were redcoats during the day. We gave that up very quickly because it was really too much like hard work. But we did a lot of cocktail waitressing in Butlins in the evening, and that's when the huge big comedians used to come and do their cabaret thing, and the outstanding people were Ken Dodd and Bob Monkhouse particularly. And not only were they brilliant on stage, but they used to come before the bar opened, and they would make sure that every seat in the Beachcomber bar, it was called, every seat could see the stage. And they were professional about it, and then they'd join you for a drink afterwards, and they were really seriously impressive people.
Yeah, it is a fantastic art. I love comedians, absolutely love comedy, love listening to tapes of things and CDs and DVDs. Brilliant.
Oh, and I do miss Victoria Wood.
Yes,
I miss Victoria Wood. Oh,
I just think we're lucky enough to met virtually everyone you can think of. I mean, from the contract from Bernard Manning to Kenneth Williams, who we had on, as you know, together, sitting next to each other. These people, and we mentioned Bob Hope, but people like Ernie White, Rick Morecambe, Mike and Bernie, Cannon and Ball.
Winters,
You know, as I say, Bobby Davro, Brian Connick. Gosh, we've met so many great comedians over the years.
Frankie Howard. You remember Frankie Howard?
On a regular basis. Yeah. He was the classic depressed. Oh, look at that picture there of Kenneth Williams.
Oh, that's Bernard Manning. And they were an unlikely pair.
Well nourished.
Expected them. Very well nourished. You wouldn't have expected them to get on, but they absolutely fired each other off, didn't they?
Absolutely, they respected each other massively. And Frankie Howard, going back to him, he is the classic example of a very, very sad comic. He was so depressed off air, and I mean, it's no secret now to admit, before he came on air on a regular basis with us, he used to have a very stiff brandy, you know, 7:30 to get him through it. A lovely guy, so stressed and anxious about it all. But
well, it was at a time when there were some horrible stories being intimated in the press about him as well. And he felt very hounded. And I remember after one programme, him saying to both of us in a corridor just outside the studio, he said, you know, it's not fun being famous anymore. And I thought, oh, what a sad thing to say. He was so wonderful. Dear old Frankie Howard. Yeah, he was one of the originals, wasn't he? The Carry On lot.
Was another massively depressed, wasn't he, at times? And
who was that? Sorry, I missed that.
Spike Milligan used to come in, didn't he? Very funny, but he was strange character.
It was a bit of a nightmare though, because you didn't know what mood he was going to be in when he arrived. And do you remember he used to come in a lot when we celebrated things like VE Day anniversaries?
Particularly.
And we would get some veterans around and some people who'd lived through it, and old ladies who'd actually been teenagers at the time and told us stories about how they danced all night. And Spike would sit there, and if he wasn't in a good mood, he would say the most outrageous things.
Yeah, well, actually, when we celebrated 40 years on from VE Day, which was 1985, we did a big thing, as you said, with lots of people from that era all sitting around, and he came on as a guest because he did that book, My Part in Hitler's Downfall, didn't he, amongst other things?
Yeah.
And he, because of timings, he got very short shrift. He was only on a short time, and he went home in absolute disgust and wrote a letter, which I still have that letter. Remember me, I was the man on for the shortest interview in the history of British television or something. It's now 12 o'clock and I'm still waiting for my interview to come on and things. It was a hilarious letter, but he was so about it. But yeah, I mean, there's so many characters like that, but they are so complex underneath. The classic only who was before our time, I know, but wow, we did meet a few. What a joy it's been today, hasn't it? My goodness.
I know, honestly, Johnny Vegas absolutely made my day. That was just such fun to talk to him, wasn't it?
And we're going to talk even younger one in a couple of weeks. We're going to talk to an even younger one, aren't we? Joe Lycett.
Yes, Joe Lycett, who's a very big deal at the moment.
But who is it?
And I'm also, I'm hoping it's Ainsley.
Yeah,
Ainsley Harriott, of course.
Yes. As well as everything else.
He said yes, he'd do it, but I just want to pin him down to make sure. Yeah. So if you're watching Ainsley, I'm going to pin you down.
Yeah, I'll send the heavies around if there's any trouble, Ainsley. All right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So should we?
Hey, hasn't this been
we've been on nearly an hour. I
know, and hasn't it been easy to talk to when it's somebody like Johnny who's just got such a lot to give and such a lot to say? It's not a job, is it? Interviewing somebody like that.
Yeah. So see you soon, eh?
Okay, my dear, keep in touch.
And
everybody watching, thank you so much for all your comments and questions. Hasn't it been great? And we'll see you again next week, Monday, 3:30.
Bye for now.
Bye.